All right, good afternoon, everyone. We are here at the Alabama Nature Center today, and as many of you know, the Alabama Nature Center is closed right now, but we still come in because we have about 70 different education animals that have to be taken care of every day, and so we're still here. We still have to take care of animals. When we're not taking care of animals, we're working at home. So I hope that you're all staying safe and that you're at home as well and staying well. So while I was here today, I wanted to talk with you about habitats. And so we're going to actually take a little walk through some different habitats. And while we're here today, I've got some little flying friends already coming to say hello. So while we're taking a little hike today, I want you to ask me questions. So you can type in the comments and I'll be able to see and be able to answer them as we go along our hike today. And I'm going to be asking you some questions too. So be ready to answer some questions and ask some questions. So I'm going to give you a little look. I'm going to turn you around here so that you can see this habitat that I'm standing in right now. And I want to ask you, what habitat is this? So it's pretty open, it's pretty sunny. We have lots of interesting things going on down here at my feet. So let's look at some of the plants that we've got. We've got some blooming wild garlic right here. Let you get an up close look at that. And let's walk a little bit. This is holding the seeds. This plant is actually what's left of the lyre leaf sage, and there's some still blooming. Let's go and find some. They're just about done though. Beautiful purple blooms. And as I walk, I'm hearing them rattle around because it's the seeds and the little seed pods. And so here is some of the blooms still left. It's the lyre leaf sage, and let me find the leaves. So here's the leaf, and our gopher tortoises like to eat these leaves. And if I take the stem and roll it in my fingers, it's square, indicating that it's in the mint family. So lots of flowers. Let's see what other, lots of grasses. See some other flowers that I can find out here. Just named off two. Ooh, I see another one. This is a really cool plant. Here's a thistle, and here's its pretty flowers. Pretty gnarly looking. Look at those leaves. And thistle, a lot of different insects like thistle, and it's actually the host plant for a few different butterfly species, including the cosmopolitan butterfly or the painted lady butterfly. The caterpillars will eat those leaves. They'll eat in between the thorns. Okay, so this is, a meadow or a grassland, a wildflower field. And this is a habitat that if you were to let your yard grow up and not mow it, this is what it would turn into. Lots of little native plants popping up everywhere. Lots of flowers for different pollinators, bees and butterflies to come and drink the nectar from the flowers. I've been watching a lot. There's a little wasp. It's hard to see going and pollinating some of the flowers. Wasps are pollinators too. Let's see if I can sneak up on them. The wasp is actually collecting pollen to take back to its young. So this is a pretty neat habitat, and that we've got in the distance. There's a eastern tiger swallowtail butterfly, and so this habitat is really nice for rabbits. Lots of things for them to come and eat. Lots of things for deer to come and eat. Lots of things for pollinators. Lots of insects through here. If I were to really dig in here in the grass and look down here, I bet I could find tons of grasshoppers and crickets and all sorts of things. And because of that, birds also like it. And so we've got birds up in these trees, and they're waiting. They're waiting for me to leave so they can swoop down and grab some bugs. And so I want to walk over here because another interesting habitat, and we're going to talk about big habitats, and we're going to talk about smaller habitats too. And there's a habitat that's pretty unique. We like to call it an edge habitat. So if we walk over here, we have this edge. So we had a softer edge over there of some trees and shrubs. And then there's a harder edge. So it's where we meet this wall of shrubs and vines and trees. And it seems like a really good hiding place. And a lot of animals really like edge habitats because this is safety. This is a place where they can go and hide really easily. And then they can come out into the field and get food and explore. And they can go back to the safety of the forest. So an edge habitat is really valuable to a lot of different animals. All right, so we're going to keep walking. We're going to go on a little hike today. And please ask questions. While we're hiking, I'm going to try to make this not so jarring. It's a beautiful day at the Nature Center. We really miss everyone. We miss having people at the Nature Center. We want you all to be safe and stay home right now. But when things are safer, we look forward to having you again. Now I'm coming up on another habitat. What do you think this one is? What's this habitat I'm approaching right now? This body of water. This one's man-made. We do have some natural habitats like this. I'm not looking at those today, but this is still a pretty cool one. Yeah, so we've got a pond. So it's smaller than a lake. It's bigger than a puddle. It's fresh water. It's not a river because it's enclosed. It's not really moving. And so this is a really nice habitat for a lot of different animals, particularly turtles. We have lots of turtles that like to live in this pond. We have lots of, there's dragonflies. Let me see if I can sneak up on this dragonfly. It's kind of hard to see, but there are dragonflies swooping down everywhere because they lay their eggs in the pond. Oh yes, and tadpoles. So tadpoles would like to be in here. Frogs will lay their eggs. And particularly on the other side, on the shadier side, in the leaf litter. And let's see if I can walk over here where there's some leaf litter. And this is a still habitat. The water's not running, so it's really nice for a lot of animals that wouldn't like that running water. So think of it as a little nursery. So the dragonflies will lay their eggs here, and their eggs will hatch out into little dragonfly nymphs, and they'll go through metamorphosis, and they will turn into adult dragonflies, hatch out, cycle continues. Frogs will come and lay their eggs here. There'll be tadpoles. They'll go through metamorphosis. So this gooey stuff right here, look at all this gunk. This is a nursery. This is a perfect little nursery for some tadpoles, and dragonfly larvae and damselfly larvae, which is a lot like a dragonfly, and other insect larvae. So this is what we would call a microhabitat. So we have this big habitat, this pond, and we have this little microhabitat, which is the leaf litter right here on the edge of the pond. When's the best time of year to see tadpoles? Well, it depends on what kind of frogs you're looking for. So here at the Nature Center, we kind of can find tadpoles year-round because some of the frogs, like bullfrogs and leopard frogs, they can have their tadpoles, it can take 2 years for them to go through metamorphosis, versus some of the other frogs. Cricket frogs are just now calling, so they'll be laying their eggs. So we've already started seeing cricket frog tadpoles now, so in the summertime. But then we also have winter breeding frogs. And so with winter breeding frogs, we see tadpoles of chorus frogs, which is a winter breeding frog in January. So frogs are cool. We get to talk a lot about frogs. But if you want to go find some frogs, go find some tadpoles. Finding a pond like this and scooping up with a net some of the leaf litter right at the edge of the pond, it's the best place to go find some tadpoles. Just make sure you put them back, because this is where they live, and this has everything they need to survive. So we want to make sure we put them back. And once again, we've got this edge habitat. So we've got this edge of the forest, and we've got the pond right here. We're going to keep walking along. Let's see what else we can find today. There's lots of stuff going on. I'm going to see if I can zoom in, because there's a turtle down there. I don't know how well I can zoom in. I don't know if you can see it. That little blurry spot in the center of your screen is a turtle basking in the sun. And as I'm walking closer, turtle's gonna freak out and jump in the water. We have a lot of sliders, pond sliders, like red-eared sliders and yellow-bellied sliders. They're common pond turtles. Ooh, there's one here on this edge too. So they're reptiles. Turtles are reptiles. They're cold-blooded. Whoop, just jumped in. So they can't make their own body heat, so they have to warm up in the sun. And so it's their favorite thing to do, is to lay on the banks of the pond and soak up some sun. Let's see how close I can get. I'm not going to disturb them. They're going to jump in before I get too close, but let's see if I can get a picture. And there they go. And they're in there. Now this water kind of looks, it's not perfectly clear, but it's perfect for the animals that live in here. And it's because it's full of algae and all kinds of things. Leaf litter that's decaying. And it's perfect for the animals that live in here. So it looks dirty to you and I, but oh, there's a turtle. But those decaying leaves have animals eating them. That's why they're decaying. And other animals are eating the animals that are eating the decaying leaves. And then you have this food chain going on. You have animals that eat the algae and the different plants that are in the pond. And so it's all green and things. That's perfect for the animals that live in here. They love it. It's a nice, healthy pond. When you see dragonflies and tadpoles and turtles and stuff in a pond, it's a nice, healthy pond. All right, now we're going to venture into the forest. So I gave this away. This is a forest habitat. We have trees, and we're going to talk about different micro habitats here in the forest. Ooh, we've got a butterfly. if I can stay still. Let me see if I can zoom in on this butterfly. It looks like a two-spotted admiral. Or red-spotted admiral, I'm sorry. It's black and blue. It's got little red spots on it. It's gone further up the trail. And so, microhabitats in the forest. So, anyone have a guess what the bottom is called? So we can kind of divide up the forest. We can look at the bottom. And we can look at the middle. And we can look at the top. I'm going to keep walking while we're talking about this. See what we can see. And there's different things that go on in each section. There's different animals that prefer the different sections of the forest. So even though this is a big forest habitat, we can divide it up. We can explore each section, talk about it. We've got this fallen tree. So this tree is no longer alive. It still has a very valuable role in the forest. So where this tree is fallen down, there's all sorts of animals that are eating away at it, or using it to hide in, using it to live in. We're going to find one that's a little smaller, see if we can roll it over. And then ones that are still standing, animals like woodpeckers can put holes in them called cavities. So if you've been on Facebook, you've seen the pictures of the cavities that we posted that woodpeckers made. Let's walk this way. Something just fell in the forest. I don't know how well you can hear. There are birds calling. Now if you wanted to listen to birds, it would be better to come in the morning or in the evening. Right now it's the heat of the day. It's not the best time to listen to birds. But there are still birds calling. Let's look at some of the plants that we have. So a lot of people think this is poison oak. This is Virginia creeper. That's a native plant. It's a vine. It's creeping along the ground here. It's not poisonous to touch. A lot of different animals like it, like to eat it. And then we've also got this little plant growing right here called smilax or greenbrier. This is the new growth that it's putting on. It's got new growth everywhere. The deer love to come and snip off that new growth and eat. Alright, so I didn't get any answers. I'm going to tell you. The bottom layer of the forest, we call it the understory. And we can talk about the mid-story. We can talk about the canopy way up top. And so the understory down here at the bottom, we can look, we can get way down here. We can look under the leaves. And this is its own habitat right here, underneath the leaves. Way down here in the soil, where the worms and the millipedes and all that like to live, all the little decomposers. Ooh, look. This is the little mycelia. So parts of mushrooms that are growing. You think of mushrooms as the big part that grows on top. But that's only part of the mushroom. That's like the flower, almost, if it were a plant. Mushrooms are a fungus, though. And the part you usually see on top, that's the mushroom. And these little thread-like parts of the mycelia. they're underneath. I'm going to cover this back up. It likes to stay nice and wet and cool. It's nice and wet and cool underneath the leaves. I want to make sure it stays that way. Lots of animals like to live under there. So I put everything back like it was. And I want to look at this log. This is another microhabitat. And this log is a nice little animal home. Now the proper way to look under a log is to move the log towards you. Because if there's something underneath it, you want it to go that way, away from you, not towards you. So I'm going to roll this log towards me. So like this. And let's look underneath. And it's nice and wet. It's very cool to the touch. And there's, let's see. There's a little millipede, little decomposer friend, moving around under there. There's a little mushroom under there. Let's see, what else can we find? I'm gonna just lift some things up, put it back. Put everything back. Lift some things up. And put it back. So we looked at some friends. Making sure I don't crush them. I'm going to put the log back. You can look real quick though. Look at this log. See, it's being eaten away by all kinds of little friends. See, little holes. Things are eating away at it. They're going to eventually, this log's not going to be here forever. It's eventually going to turn back into soil and return nutrients back into the soil. Our decomposer friends, like beetles and other insects and mushrooms, they're going to do that for us. So we're going to put this back just like it was and let nature continue its work. Let's look over here because there's another habitat over here. So, what's this habitat? I've got a different one. It's another water habitat. But it's different than the one we looked at. This is natural. This isn't man-made like the other one. Although there are natural ponds too. We just didn't look at a natural pond. This one's moving. It's not moving fast. It's moving kind of slowly. Yeah, so this is a creek. So it's moving from one point to another, a creek or a stream. And it's moving from one point to another point. It's not a river. Creeks and streams can sometimes connect to rivers, which are larger, but this one is smaller than a river, so it's a creek or stream. And it's still fresh water, not salt water. Okay, and it's not contained like our pond. Alright, and it's pretty shallow. You can see the bottom. It has a rocky bottom, has a sandy bottom. And we've listed some facts on Facebook about creeks and streams. Alabama has lots of waterways. We have lots of creeks and streams running through Alabama and rivers. And all that moving fresh water is one of the things that makes Alabama so unique and beautiful. And water, where there's water, there's life. And we have so much fresh water that we have a lot of animals associated with fresh water. So Alabama is number one in freshwater fish. So we have more freshwater fish than any other state. That's different kinds of species of freshwater fish. And we also are number one in crayfish species, freshwater snail species, freshwater turtle species, and mussel species. All right. Tammy pointed out there's some trees in the water. Do you see this cypress tree in the water? So there's some trees that are adapted to living in the water, like a cypress tree. It has this wide trunk base, swollen trunk base to support itself in the water. And there's lots of different plants that like to live close to the water, like these ferns. And this is a really pretty cinnamon fern. Has big fronds. It's this is where its spores are. And if I blow on it, well, it's not going to quite do it for me. I'll leave a little bit of residue behind. But it has these big fronds, and ferns are a very special, very unique plant. They like to grow next to streams, wetland areas, and so they like this area. So we're going to talk about another unique habitat. Growing next to, next to a waterway, we generally call this area a riparian zone. So there's a collection, all of these things that are growing here, they act as a natural buffer. Now this looks like a quiet, calm little stream, but we have a lot of rain, it actually floods. And the water rises and it spills over, and it can spill over into this riparian zone. But the soil is actually pretty spongy, and it absorbs a lot of water, and all these plants help absorb the water too. And so riparian zones are very important because they actually help with flooding. They lessen the impact of water flooding out. They kind of absorb all that water, and some of these plants are really well adapted at doing that. And then there's all kinds of animals that like to live or come to and visit riparian zones as well. So riparian zones are really important. A lot of times riparian zones get destroyed. A lot of people want access to the pretty waterways, and riparian zones get destroyed and all the plants get taken away, and nature can't do the job that it's supposed to do anymore. This is usually a place where I can see a lot of frogs too. This is a little quieter. And we've also got some logs. Now, we looked at this habitat. Is this habitat a wet habitat or a dry habitat? It's a pretty easy question. I'm going to look under this log. We've been walking downwards. It's nice and wet under here. So this is a wet habitat. This is a wetland habitat. We've been walking down into a wetland habitat. Where we were before, up in the meadow, was more of an upland habitat. It was drier because it was up. Ooh. Let's see if I can zoom in. There's a little wolf spider. See him? It's a young one. They don't really make webs to catch their prey. They go out and hunt. That's why they're called wolf spiders. They go hunt their prey. And the mamas, when their babies hatch, they carry their babies around on their back, which is kind of cool. So this is a wet habitat. We just came from a dry habitat, and so these are things you can look around your backyard. I just noticed something I want to show you real quick. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy, but this is seed dispersal at work. So when I walked through that meadow, I was walking through all those plants, and their seeds have caught all in on my pants. These seeds are meant to attach to an animal and be dispersed elsewhere. And they have done their job. Very nice. The water in the stream is cooler than the water in the pond and contains more dissolved oxygen. Absolutely right. Fun fact. Thanks, Blake. Probably want to see where we're going. That's because it's moving, too. It's turning around, hitting all those rocks, turning over, bubbling. Let's see. And so we have lots of different types of habitats on the property, and if I had more time, we could walk and walk and walk, and I could take you to an upland forest. We could talk about the different kinds of plants there compared to here. Here we have lots of blueberries and ferns and cypress trees, versus if we went to the upland forest, we would have lots of beech trees and hickory trees and things like that. Now this is all riparian zone. Right here we've got this our little creek. All these different kinds of ferns. And I'm focusing on this habitat because it's, oh, a lizard, did I miss it? I'm looking at too many different things. I'm glad I have all your eyes. There are lots of lizards that like this boardwalk and like to hide under it too. And so there can be man-made habitats too. This is a man-made boardwalk, but there are animals that will utilize it. That'll come out here to sun on it, hide underneath it. Some animals become dependent on structures like that. Here's another cool little plant. Jack in the pulpit. Another little wetland plant. See the little flower hiding under there. Different trees in different sizes there are. So there are, and then you've got your shrubby trees, small, and then you've got your really big tall trees. Let's look at this. That's a big tree. I want to walk up here to this bald cypress tree so that we can look at its big wide base, because this is really spongy soil and it has this big wide base so that it can stay supported. There's also cypress knees, which scientists debate whether or not they help with stability or with oxygen. Let's see. So this is the bald cypress tree. I'm going to show you cypress knees in a second. They're kind of hidden, just like the top of this tree is hidden. Here we go. That's the bald cypress tree. And then the cypress knees are these little knobs that come up that are connected to the tree but are not roots. It's pretty cool. Lots of different plants, and it's kind of wet down there. The soil is spongy, it's holding water. And if we wanted to talk more about microhabitats, you could talk about even the bark of this tree is a microhabitat. Things that could hide underneath the bark of this tree, little insects and things like that. So, I'm going to take a seat here next to my cypress friend, and you can see the layers of the forest really nicely here. You've got your understory, your mid-story, all your little shrubby plants right there, and then the canopy way up there. And with birds, you've got birds that like the different levels, that will either forage in the different levels or nest in the different levels. So you'll hear those levels a lot. All right, so I hope you enjoyed our little hike. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them. You'll still be able to ask them in the comments, and I'll be able to see them and answer them that way. I hope that you learned some different things, learned some different kinds of habitats today. A little refresher on some of the ones you already knew. And we are going to have a challenge on Monday. And Monday's challenge is going to be about habitats in your yard or some green space near you that you can safely and easily access and still maintain social distancing measures. So if you have some kind of green space, or you've got a backyard, front yard, side yard, some kind of place with nature and some kind of habitat. I think I just heard frog. Frogs are starting to call. If you've got some places like that, start looking around and thinking about the habitats that are around you. And they might be big habitats, but they could be some of these really small habitats. And we're going to explain more about what we mean and talk about some of the smaller habitats on Monday when we put our challenge out on Monday. Tammy asked, did we see any snakes today? Did not. It is a nice day for snakes. Nice and sunny. It's warm, but not too warm. So I was watching where I was stepping, watching where I put my fingers, making sure I pulled the log towards me so that if there was a snake hiding underneath, it would go away from me, not towards me. But I didn't see any. Jennifer asked, when do you usually post? So the challenge will probably be posted around 2 o'clock on Monday. So I try to post in the afternoon for the challenge. Or at least I'll plan on doing that for this Monday. So that'll be the challenge. If you didn't complete this week's challenge was to make a bird wanted poster for some of the neotropical migratory birds. And so you've still got some time to finish that challenge. So make your own bird poster. And we've really been enjoying seeing those, seeing your artistic skills at work. In this low-lying wetland habitat, we've also got some other creatures here. The mosquitoes are in, just FYI. Sitting still is not proving very beneficial to me. And I'm seeing if y'all have any more questions for me. Got one more plant for you. I'll show you this one more plant. This is jewelweed. Nice little patch of jewelweed. It's going to have some pretty red, orangey flowers mid to late summer. And it's a great poison ivy rash cure, if you will. It's known as an old remedy for that. So, cool plants all around. Yeah, so we saw dragonfly, we saw turtles, we saw millipede, not a centipede, a millipede, which is a decomposer. Centipedes are predators, so they're more likely to bite you. I saw some butterflies. I did see while I was waiting, I saw some painted lady butterflies out and about. And right now, I'm seeing probably about 15 to 20 mosquitoes. And they're gathering on my forehead. So I'm probably going to let you go. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any more questions, please send them to me. I will answer the best I can. If you have any topics that you're really interested in us discussing, talking about, please let us know as well. Thanks for joining.